So last time we were at Swanky's studio, my friend Timmy shot the what's it called? Shot this particular video that this particular work that I'm showing. This one. Shot this picture. I collected it from him. I liked it. Though originally I think I just started from the beginning. This is the shot originally. I liked the simplicity of the shot. So I say I probably should play around with this particular shot. Okay. So basically how I edit first of all is I try and look at the picture and understand what I wanted to create or what the photographer was trying to create so we can understand how perfect it should look. First of all, like most of us already know, and like my mentor used to say, you make sure you take the best picture. So when you're editing, you're not trying to make the picture perfect. You're not trying to make the picture good, you're trying to make it perfect. So it's not about like how we can just say, background they wrong, no way I'll do for editing. Stuff like that, I feel it's something that if you can take care of your shots, make sure the pictures you click is as perfect as possible. In post production, you now have plenty of work. I can see this picture. This picture is, I think, reasonably, I can see this picture is perfect. The composition, the exposure, the background too is neat. So there's almost no work here. First, what I did is I first duplicate my layer by pressing Command J, Ctrl J, or dragging the layer down to. Sorry, let me expand this. Or dragging the layer, the particular background layer down to this plus button here. It automatically duplicates the layer. When I duplicate my layer, I now clean my background. What if it needs cleaning, that's where we take out stuff that we don't need using patch tool. This tool here. I'm going to just run through because of time and most of us here are already bad guys. So so if at any point if I
we're not bad guys.
no, it's funny that it's the bad guys that is shouting we're not bad guys. Okay, so I use patch tool to just select the file. Now because I already have part of it's a plain background, I already have part of the background that is perfect. These areas are perfect. So I can easily just drag it to the perfect part of the background. Or another way to do it, we can actually select it, right click on the particular part of the another part of the picture that is not selected, then click content aware. Automatically it analyzes the aspects, the areas of the pictures it's using to replace the part that needs replacement. After you finish, you can either make it the changes to be implemented on same layer or on a new layer. I like same layer because some of the actions I created in respect to the layer name. So if I create a new layer, it might affect the implementation of actions that I've created, like for my frequency separation or color grading. So I click OK. In case you don't know what action is actually predefined steps you teach. I like using the word teach. You program your Photoshop to carry out for you. Say for instance, color grading. You color grade the picture, you made saturation 110, contrast 8, all those default settings. You can easily record the steps you go through. So whenever you want that exact settings, you just play the action. It will automatically implement the contrast on 8 and all those steps you took, it to play them again on the new picture you're using. And these here are my actions. I learned how to use Retouch Pro, Beauty Retouch, the likes of the Retouch Academy, because I want to understand how they work. But personally, I'm kind of a freak for knowledge, and I have this pride in having my own things customized. So even after learning everything and getting other people's actions and stuff, I studied why they did what they did, and I created my own, every of these actions by myself to help me work the way I want to work. So just in case you start wondering probably which person's action is this. Though, yes, in some cases like the eye and teeth whitening, I just took someone's own because it's the same thing we did, practically the same thing we did. Then like frequency separation too, I can just pick anybody's own for the sake of time when I got this laptop. So I just picked just a few that someone did, but my color grading and the rest are actually mine. So we cover our time, back to the editing. Now because most of us post our work on social media.
Sorry,
Yes, sir?
some of your icons we are not.
We need to use the TV. Okay, so what was I again? Okay, so this because most of us post our work on social media, and most social media platform uses 4:5 ratio or 5:5. That's for portraits. Then for landscape they use 5:4 or sometimes 16:9 if it's a video. Then if it's portrait video too, 9:16, it's kind of like switched. So the next thing I do is I crop my picture. I already have my my ratio predefined 4:5. If it's a portrait, if it's a landscape shot, I just switch it, and then it's 5:4 for social media. So I crop it, and in this case, for this picture, I don't need to expand my background because the picture is a perfect fit. If there's need for me to expand my background, most times I will drag it up and then make sure content aware is clicked here. And when you click on it, it will automatically try to generate the background for you. It might not be as accurate as possible, but most times it reduces the work. You just have to do finishing touches. Though I don't need it for this particular work, but I'm just doing it for doing sake. So we'll just get the gist now. Sorry, it's loading. Okay, so you see now it did a pretty good job, just in some finishing compared to the before. It automatically generated this part of the image, and it's almost accurate. Just need a few touches you get. No, but we don't need that for this particular shot. So let's avoid whining, please. Because people that are guilty, they are born that put me through things that is not doing good, the bad guys, all this undercover. Okay, so now copying 4:5, this is perfect for most social media platforms. So at this point, what I dive in now is to see aspects of the skin that I want to make sure it's not there. These wrinkles, spots, her hair, and stuff like that. I'll be running through this fast enough so I won't drag us too much. So if at any point you have any questions, just let me know, but I'll still keep explaining what I'm doing. So if not now, there's hair on her face, no make sense, it is for her steez. So there are different tools you can use. You can use under this, I have my toolbar customized too. You can use the patch tool, which you literally select the file, drag it to the particular aspect of the image you want to replace it and leave it. Or you use the spot replacement tool. The patch tool is normal, it doesn't need any settings, it's just there.
No, yes. Some of the patches that use
Content what?
use content and maybe in an
sometimes if you select the patch tool, some persons instead of dragging and dropping, they can just they easily right click and click content aware. So it automatically generates what should be there based on what's around it. But me, waste of time to be doing all this. Most times I have parts of the skin that I already feel is perfect. So I just replace it with the part of the skin. So now, and that tool to use, like I said, is, yes sir? Okay, usually yes, but for this, yes, short on raw, but okay. Okay, first of all, this picture I did not touch. I did not use camera raw for it. I'm really sorry. I used Capture One because it was shot to mirrorless camera, so it was shot in CR3 format. And this my Photoshop is not recognizing CR3 format yet because I cracked it and I've not had time to get a better version. So because of that, I use my Capture One. I usually use Capture One for color correction. and slight changes, then I bring it automatically saves it as PSD file for Photoshop. So it had it saved already. The raw file is still here. This is the raw file. So I just did the, like I said, color adjustment. I just adjusted the color. Basically, that's what I did. Do you understand, please? So this is the color. If you notice the background I changed, because I felt it's too cold. I like warm. So I felt it's too warm. I like cold pictures. This touch of blue. I know you cannot use that. No offense to Canon users. Sorry, Nikon users. No offense to Nikon users. The X of Boss Godwin. So that's the main thing we just did. I just changed the color of the background. Then made her skin color. This give you this brown sweet feel. Back to what we were saying. So I will rush this whole cleaning her hair and face stuff. I just wanted to just make it obvious that
Sorry, please, Nugi, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So that part two is set to content aware, right?
no. That's what you are
Batch
using.
2015.
2015.
Yes. Okay, yours is on normal.
Yeah, normal. Okay. Okay, so like I was saying, another way for you to, aside the part 2, you can also use spot removal to just trace it up and it will clean it. Why I don't use this is because I'm depending on Photoshop to replace the aspects for me. So sometimes it might not be as accurate as possible. If you look at the edge of her skin, you notice the line I just used, it kind of is there. So for me to be fast enough, I just feel doing it myself for this particular process saves me time. So I already know where I want it to be. I just use my part to replace it with the particular pixel. And I try as much as possible to replace it with part of her skin that has similar skin tones and exposure. Because if you carry from the bright part and replace it to the dark part, it will look too smooth. And if you carry from the dark part, sorry, excuse me. If you carry from the dark part and you place it from the bright side, it will look noisy. So most times you try and blend it with the particular part of our skin that has similar textures. So because of time, I'll just rush this. Pardon me. So all these parts, these are things that normally, like these reels that went viral one time, they said they will never know who we know, but we'll still zoom in and say that we know. So we just try and just put in our best to get. Then no, ladies for sure, we know nowadays wig is like next to their pillow. They like literally sleep with the wig if possible. No offense. So most times I feel helping them make it look as natural as possible is my work. So I can just do little blending around there to just let if they don't do all this frontals they used to do, to just make it blend properly, to make it look a bit natural. Then I'll finish the rest in frequency separation. Okay. Now sometimes why I zoom in this close is because in selecting the pixel, the more you zoom in, the less part of the skin you have to select to make changes. Compared to if I zoom out like this now, I might need to select more to do the work. So I just zoom in closer to have myself do the work faster and more accurately. This is something that some persons will leave. This mark here, yeah. Some persons will leave it, but I feel most times I used to take it out, but I try to still make sure it's as perfect as possible. But I try and take it out because I feel it still counts as wrinkles sometimes. But if I see the clients, some clients that take their dimple personal, I leave it. But most cases, I take it out. Then another thing I try to make sure, one thing we should try to make sure we leave is birthmarks, scars. Most times you ask the client, if your client has like a scar, you can ask the client, should I take it out or should I leave it? It's easy. Or sometimes, if I don't feel comfortable asking the client, or excuse my mind, I would edit it, take it out. But in some cases, I'll still give them both options. If I can, I'll give them both options. If I cannot, I'll take it out, but be open to putting it back. In some cases, some clients, if I feel clients has too much while, I'll leave it. Let them tell me, no, take it out. So that's another thing I consider when I'm editing. Now, the idea behind my editing is to make the picture look as natural as possible. Some clients prefer looking like baby rubber. It's fine. But based on my standard, and most times I come to understand that it's okay for you to like editing like some persons, But if you understand what exactly you want to achieve and you create your niche, what you're known for, your kind of client will come to you. Now you will not see T.Y. Bello kind of client going to Kelechi Obi. Kelechi Obi is an unicorn shooter, and most of his pictures has this warm yellow feel to it. T.Y. Bello na red pictures you take. So someone that likes T.Y. Bello picture automatically will go to T.Y. Bello for kind of pictures. It's default setting. There are a few instances where some clients will come in and they will probably like decide, okay, I want you to do me this, I want you to do this, I like this, I saw this person's picture, and yes, there's room for compromise. So you do it, but not at the detriment of losing your kind of pictures. So it's something that if I see Smart, even my cousin, we've been friends for like forever, and he's a great photographer. If I see his picture anywhere, I know his picture. Funny enough, I just know his color grade, his pattern, his skin work. Anywhere, if Instagram suggests Smart picture, I don't need to look at them. I'm seeing a Smart picture of this. The same thing with likes of T.Y. Bello. Most of us see Big Hate picture. This is a Big Hate picture of this. You get. If you see, if I see Sevilla picture, Mr. Sheon, I know it's not a picture. The particular time my WhatsApp status just dived into it. I think his wife was doing birthday. You know, they like peppering as well as married men. His wife was doing birthday. He just carried the picture back. I didn't even know I had gone to his own status. When I just see the picture, I just know it's work, because there's this feel he gives to his picture, just this nice editing, like he doesn't want to touch the picture, so he doesn't blank and then he's good to go with his signature. Not as like going on, they show themselves too much. So I knew this was, I just knew that I don't enter your own DM. Sorry that I'm rushing. I might not finish the because of time. I'll not do every, but this is still part of the cleanup we do. We follow it down to the edge of our clothes. You just settle down. This is what the client is paying for. You settle down. You do it as calmly and accurately as possible. In some cases, you have privilege to just finish everything, do faster, like I just did now. You can do it and it will still look normal. Some cases you have to zoom in and do the whole clean. One good thing about our model is she has good skin. Some persons, they on top of their face, you spend 3 years. You get. So, but then stuff like this to just make it look neat, natural, fine. Like I said, I'm rushing, please, so permit me. Now, this is something that normally is part of the props, right? But I don't need it because it's all white. I feel like, no need. We already know it's not white, so it's just to maintain the 3 dimension of the props, and we're good to go. Okay, I think just little. Shout out to Swanky, by the way. This way that we're not in our studio. Our studio makes sense. Now I'll take this picture and I miss. This backdrop, it was the grace of God and self-control, small self-control that made me not carry it. I would have traded it for the small chops she gave, but I said I should just carry it. No, not my bet. No, I beg you. My birthright. My birthright. If let's say bright already. Okay, so I'm done with the whole thing. Now, most times, see this edge of her hair. Different ways. Some persons will use the pen tool to select the part of the hair. You know this is selection stuff. Adjust it. Sorry, excuse me. So I'll just go through this sharply to just show us for the whole learning purpose. So some persons will actually do this, adjust the pen tool, just giving an instance, then select it out. When I select it, right click on it, you select mark selection. When you mark selection, the pixels, this feather normally is how defined the edges are. So sometimes if you're making a particular effect, it defines the edges. Like if there's a cut, it gives the cut, it makes it defined. Sometimes it blends it into the background. For cases like this, you don't want the black blending into the green. I think this is green. So you don't want it blending into the green. So you make sure your feather is at 0. If you do this now, you can now easily use the clone tool, which is S, to now select the part of the background that is neat. You press Option on Mark or Alt ahead, or then you can easily, one thing, the hardness for this, making it soft brush will now help you make the edges of your selection of the selection with this clone tool to not be too defined. If you look nice, it's softer compared to when I made it hard and then I selected and I said clean. This part, you see it will give you this. I don't know if you guys can see these edges around here. it's kind of like strong. So that's why I don't use the hard whatever. I just make it soft. So now this is one of the ways you can actually clean the edge of our skin. Now I don't do this personally. I don't use this method because I feel it's okay, but it takes out the originality of the hair. So and I like being intentional about my editing. I like too much work, no vex. So what I do most times is I zoom into the picture, then all these parts I manually clean it up. So I take this clone stamp, so I don't predefine it. I just take out these edges. Sorry, excuse me. So I just take out the edges myself, make it look a bit natural. If I'm going close to the hair, if I'm going closer to the hair, I reduce the shape of the brush, sorry, so it will not give me that too much fade, to start fading into the normal hair, into the actual hair. I don't like it, so I actually zoom in a bit. Then I increase my hardness. So if I'm going close to the hair, rather, why increase the hardness? So the edge of the hair will still, like we did previously, I will not put the feather on. I put the feather on 0. I make sure the hardness is high enough, sorry, so that it will actually help me define the edge of the hair. So you have something like this. Because of time, I'll just rush it fast. So I did this. In some cases, if I don't have much time, I leave out this main part and I just do the closest part to the hair. Then after everything, I can easily select this and just replace it with the background because of time. So I'll just roll through this sharply. So I did the rest selection, so I won't need to waste time doing the. I go back to my brush tool. Do the same thing again. I select as far from the hair as possible. So in case I'm tilting towards another part of it, I won't start replacing it with her actual head. Sorry. Okay. I select part out, so I'll know how. Okay. I think I'm almost done here. So if you have any question, you can actually just hit me up, or you wait later to ask. I don't actually mind. As I'm doing this, I can actually be answering questions. Let's see. Okay, we're almost done. So we can see the hair is looking neater now. And thank God this whole wig is not Sister Ibuka kind of wig. It's actually okay. Some persons, their wig will keep you wondering how exactly the head is. You cannot use the wig to define the shape of her head. The wig will have like this, like bomb, this barricade. You get. Yes, sir, please.
So now your first method, after selecting, how do you go to the option?
Okay, after you select using the pen tool, when you use the pen tool to select, for instance, like this, you right click, then you see make selection.
Okay, make selection.
Unselect it to ask you the feather. After I set the feather, you click it, it does the selection. Okay, then we're almost done. So in some cases, I actually reshape the hair of the model. Sometimes, like parts like that, I can decide to just make it maybe down like this a bit. But because of time, I'll just feel it like this one. Okay, let's just do a little bit because of for beauty's sake to show the effect. So I'll look at the hair. Okay, what exactly do I want? How exactly I want the hair to be? I'll just follow this trace, this particular strand that is here. This one. Not that we don't just do it anyhow, so it not look fake. You have to still follow the pattern on the hair, right? So I'll just select this out, blend it in small. In this too. And you have to be creative enough to not do it, not overdo it or underdo it, I guess. Especially now that the hair is actually covering her shoulder. You have to do it in such a way that the shoulder won't look like it's too affected. Now, I didn't see the shoulder before, if not, I will not do this one. But since I've studied, I'm going to follow through. So I'll just be creative about it. Okay, excuse me. Take this out first, then come down to this. Excuse me. Okay. So since this hair is there, I want to just make it look natural, like the hair is actually on her shoulder. This is, like I said, this is something that you as an editor might not see fun in it, might not like it rather. But sometimes pushing yourself to do some of these things actually increases actually increases chances of compromise when you need to compromise. We've seen persons that will bring in bad pictures and be like, but if you hear me adjust this, fear me change, fear me correct this. You just find a way to get it done. Okay. Excusez-moi. I'm still not feeling it yet, sorry. Now, I know I said I'm one person that likes keeping it as natural as possible, but sometimes your definition of natural can be altered based on the preference of the client or the kind of setting for the shoot. So normally, this should be okay. Though we know, between me and you, we know say I actually I had to take out the hair from my shoulder and stuff. But looking at it, typically the shoulder looks almost perfect, except for the black that's at the edges, which I'm willing to overlook for the purpose of the fact that I'm rushing and I'm doing other things. So now at this point, it's almost ready for the next part of the editing, which is the skin work, frequency separation. Now, frequency separation is a very simple retouching techniques where we separate. Most of our pictures are divided into two aspects: the textures and the tones. So the tones holds the color and exposure, that's the blend of light. The texture holds the details in the image. Now, what over time, photography evolved into the aspect where we now have the privilege of separating these two aspects and working on them individually. I have my own predefined actions already, but it's something that if you really want to learn how to do frequency separation, you can easily just either you check YouTube for references or you meet any of the one here to put you through. So for full shots, I usually keep it around the range of 4-5, depending on the quality of the picture and the kind of background, kind of picture it is. For close shots, that's a medium shot rather, I keep it around 5, 6, 7, rarely 7, but I still take it to 7 sometimes. For close-up shot, I leave it 6 to 8. In some cases, when I'm doing beauty shots or fashion shoots, head shots for fashion brand, I can take it as high as 13, depending on how much details I get in my picture naturally. But basically, in literal terms, the sharper your image, the more the sharper my image rather, the more my radius for frequency separation. While the blurrier the image, the lesser the frequency. So if I have like a full shot where I take some full shots down the head with the background and everything, I don't let my radius go higher than 5. Most times, at some point, I've done 3 before. The image was very blurry. So that aside, for this I'm going to use 6. Originally, you should zoom into the image and make sure the wrinkles is blurred out, plenty English, make sure you're not seeing the textures. That's the perfect radius for it and stuff like that. But the way it is now, we're looking for money. We don't have time to be doing that much detail. So look for what works best for us. I will keep repeating it until we get a better way to get it done. Yes, sir?
Sorry, let me get it. For full shot, like if it's a full shot, you give a higher radius number.
No, lower.
A lower radius
Yes, sir.
number.
Yes, sir.
So if, for example, I'm seeing head to leg, I can use 3, 4, 5.
Let's say 4, 5 to be on the safer side.
Okay.
For
If I'm
me.
doing head shots, I can use what?
You can use 6, 7. It depends. Most times, okay, one thing you should understand is in as much as there's a pattern we follow because of time. Originally, the idea is for you to take it down, make sure you see your image like this, then you blur it, you take it, you increase the blur until you cannot see the texture on the skin again. Sometimes you can even zoom into the part of the image that has most textures, then you take it up until you cannot see it again. Now I can see her face, but you see the pattern on her forehead is almost invisible now. So it's safer, that's why I said it's safer. This is, so over time, we know this is the range that works for me. Just like how you don't sabi cook, you don't need to measure the salt again, you just pack, you know, say this salt is enough. Maggi is enough. You don't think about it anymore. So, so we get, so that's how it is too. Yes, sir.
How do you get to the radio spot?
It's an action I use. That's proper.
So for us that were expected, how do you now?
Give us the action.
I can give you the action, or
There's a process of creating classes.
okay, okay. I think you handle that. Right? Egbon. Do we have time? Shall I go through it?
Yes.
Shall I go through it?
Last time.
Okay, so like I said, okay. So the first step is you make sure you create two new layers.
Yes.
One to represent your textures and the other one to represent your tones, your skin tones. So I drag and drop as usual. Sorry, excuse me. So I name this texture, let me say tones. Tone. Representing the skin tone, color and stuff.
Yeah.
Then the other one, I name it texture. Now this is perfect, yeah? So I turn off the texture. You turn off the texture layer so you can make modifications to the tones without distraction. Now how do I mean? The tones now, this is where we do the Gaussian blur. Under tones, we go to Gaussian blur. Under tone, go to filter, sorry. And go to blur and Gaussian blur. Sorry, excuse me. Now, some persons use Gaussian blur, some persons use medium blur. Personally, I use Gaussian blur. Are we together? Personally, I use Gaussian blur. Now, this is where we come to the blur aspect, where we choose the amounts to use. You zoom into the picture, make sure you get the preference. We're using 6 for the purpose of time. I'll just explain that already. So use 6. Now, when you do that, one of the tricky thing about this frequency separation is you have to make sure you're on the right layer doing the right thing. It's very tricky. You might just forget to turn off the texture layer and you're already making change to tone and you're like, I'm not seeing anything, it's not blur. You increase it 60, it's still not blur. 70 is not blur. You see yourself making mistakes underneath the layer. So most times the first step, once you duplicate it, you turn as you sir? Okay. Once you duplicate layer, as you rename the tones, you go up, rename the textures, you turn it off immediately. So you don't make mistake of saying you want to maintain. Once you turn it off, then as you turn it off, you have to still be conscious enough to make the tone your active layer. If you turn this texture off and you're making changes, it will no longer show. It will be invisible and you're already messing up your edits. So you come back to your tones, you apply the Gaussian blur. After applying the Gaussian blur, this is perfect already for your textures. One of the reasons why we apply Gaussian blur on the image in this tone aspect is to distract, is to separate. This image now is not carrying much details. It's literally carrying the skin tones and the exposure based on how much light reflects on objects. So we can almost not see the details of her skin, the details of the background. Everything looks smooth. You understand me so far? Now this other layer, texture layer, now this is where we now work on the actual textures. Now there are two methods to do this. Why there are two is because sometimes our image, our camera shoots either 8-bit images or 16-bit images. Now how you will know, just at the edge of the image here, you see the color code / the bits. So this is a 16-bit image. Now I'll explain to you how to do both of them. Now what you do for this texture layer, now to take out the tones from the texture, you come to images. Now come to apply image. Where is it please? Yep. Now under apply image, the first thing you do now, this layer now, you see merge there, it's more like it's still a combination of both layers, of all the layers rather. But now we want it to be with respect to just one layer. Now remember, we're taking out the textures with respect to the tones we've created. We're separating both of them. So now we come to the merge and we select the tone. That's the layer that carries your skin tone and the exposure. So I select the tone. Now this is, so we'll be seeing the change. Now once you select out the tone, that's the first step. For 16-bit images, where's the stuff? Okay, sorry. Where is the guy? I forgot it. I don't forget what I did, sorry. I've forgotten. Okay. Yeah, no, the offset. The offsets, yeah. Even though if you remember, I don't know what I do.
What are you looking for? Change my blend.
Offset.
Change your blend of subtract.
Yes. God bless you. Thank you. Sorry, I've not done it for some time. Okay, so that's the next thing I was supposed to explain. Now, if it is a 6, if it's an 8-bit image, your blending mode will be add. If it's 16-bit, your blending mode will be subtract. This is a 16-bit image, so our blending mode is going to be subtract. You understand me? Then we invert layer. Sorry, preserve this thing. Make sure our offset is 2. Scale 2, offset 0. Are we together, please? Now, supposing this is an 8-bit image, what we'll do is we'll come to this place and add, not subtract. Then the offset will be 2. Sorry, the scale will be 2. Offset will be 128. Then we invert. Now you see, all we're just seeing is the textures, the patterns on the image. We're not seeing the color anymore. This is if it was to be, what's it called, an 8-bit image, but this is a 16-bit image. So we're using subtract instead. Scale 2, offset 0. Are we together? Are we together, please?
Sure.
Now you click OK, and you go to your blending mode.
You remove the listen from 128, the offset.
Sorry, come. Excuse me, guys. No, for 16 bits, I maintain the scale at 2, then offset 0. No, sorry. Okay, sorry. Sorry guys. I also show you the settings I just did, but I clicked it. Now, for the blending mode here, we make sure it's linear light. Linear light now brings the image to the actual exposure, or should I say the kind of, how will I put it now? It looks natural. Let me put it that way. I think it's easy to just, it looks natural. Now, this blending mode still has the texture effect on this layer, but still maintains the originality of the image, the texture layer. Are we together? Now what we do next is we group these two layers by pressing Ctrl G. Now I rename it to frequency separation. You can just, I'll just put FS rather. Now this is the frequency separation action. There might be little changes in between because of preference, but this is actually the main, this is how we create the actions. After we do all this step, we record it, and then each time we can just come and play it, and it does all this down to this part. Now when it comes to this part now, we use our brush tool to blend the skin for skin smoothing and all those stuff. But me personally now, most times what most persons do, they use brush first of all to blend the skin, then they use laser tool. But I don't use laser tool. So I'll just put it through. I don't use that tool because I still get what I want to get using just the mixer brush tool. Now I'm speaking plenty English. This is the mixer brush tool. This tool here. It's not just using the tool. There's actually settings different persons use, different combinations. Now if you look up here, you see there's a menu bar for this mixer brush tool. Now me, make sure my wet is 9, load is 75, mix is 90, flow is 100. That's the setting I use personally that works for me. Now another thing I make sure I do is this particular layer, sometimes your by default the mixer box tool might come like this. I think something like this. It's come with these settings, but you have to make sure you select clean brush and deselect this aspect and select this part. Now what this simply does is each time you use the stroke of your brush to clean the to blend any aspect of the image, when you take out your brush, it automatically cleans it up. Just imagine you're painting. So you're painting well, like this pattern now that's black and white. So if I want to blend this black part, I dip it into black paint, right? Or let me even say the paint is wet already. I want to smoothen it. I use my brush to smoothen the black part. This setting is like, say, once I take my brush out, automatically the brush comes back clean again. So when I'm cleaning the white part, it doesn't stain into black. If I don't activate these settings here, it can actually take pixels from the previous part I blended and use it on the new part. That's how we maintain this. So let me run faster. So now,
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
What's your weight?
my
Weight.
9,
Your load.
975,
Your mix.
90, flow 100. Yes. So then, the hardness, something you should not forget, because using this now, you want the edges of your brush to be smooth. It should blend into the other aspects of the image that you're not selecting. So it's not look too predefined. So I make sure the hardness is in soft round. It's part of the default brush settings for your mixer brush tool for Photoshop. So it's not something that you say you need to download it or anything. It comes as part of the default package for Photoshop. At least so far that I know, unless there's malfunction in software or something. Now, having done that, the next thing we do now is to work on the skin. Now, working on smoothing the skin, you have to do it well. I like seeing it like makeup. When you're doing makeup, there's a pattern to it. You don't just do it like you're brushing, you're polishing shoe. Even when you're polishing shoe, there's still pattern to it. You don't just carry the shoe and just, we hold the shoe, we follow the pattern to the side, come to this side, the top, you blend it properly, you hold the edges. There's way you follow it to make the shoe shine. Not just do random and just doing it like you're turning a bar. Even a bar to have pattern. So for this now, most times it is recommended that from the forehead, you blend towards, like blend this from the forehead part, you try and soften it, because our face has like this nice pattern, right? Down, it comes from the top down to the jaw. So you follow that pattern gently to this part. Now, in some cases, like when ladies do makeup, you see the blush around this area. So you cannot just blend everything. You follow this, you have to now break it into sectors. So you blend the forehead, then you come down and take care of the blush, then you take care of the edge of the jaw, the edge of her chin, down to the jaw. The edge, this part of the jaw too is different. Because if you blend it from this place down to this place, it doesn't look like she's having forced chin. It's something that the cheeks area too, you blend it properly. These are things that you actually do. I'll just rush it. But if you have any questions, just let me know. So now for this, I'll just take it gently, then gently. Because of time, I'm rushing, so you permit some of the things that might look like I'm overlooking it. So gently, and then another thing the mixer brush tool will help is in some cases where your model's forehead is overexposed. Not so overexposed, it has focus. In some cases where it has more highlight there, like the one just said. You would try and make sure in blending I can actually fix that. I just simply, it's like I'm using, like remember we put our wet at 9, so it's just imagine I put 9% water inside the paint. So now mixing it up, because there's this small moist, it's easy for me to just blend the part that is consecrated and the part that is less consecrated. Back to what I was doing. Now this is it. Now the forehead is done. This our model has small blush, so I'll just leave the blush for now. Blend this part of the nose. This stuff that is here, this stress mark. Sometimes reducing it makes your clients look more comfy, more okay. Some clients might come in stressed out and all their face, they have eye bag and everything. So sometimes just blending this gently reduces it. This is the before and the after. It's even the stuff on her nose is actually lesser now. Now I come to the blush. Since the blush is different, I just blend it gently. Now one thing you should understand is when blending, you blend the aspects that is different. For instance, this blush is a bit red, it has more red now. Now I blend the blush differently. The edge of the blush, I blend it with the skin, so it will have this even transition into the other aspect of the skin. So it not look too fake, that just everything is just cut. You want everything to have this nice connection. To continue, now the nose, if you notice, the nose and her eye area has like this dark part, so I try not to mix them too much. I take care of this part. Then this top her nose. Now I'm not just holding my brush and coloring everything. At some point, when I finish working on this, I take it off. Then I go to the dark part, I blend it, I take it off. It's just that because I'm probably using grass pen, if it's pre-recorded in the mouse, you see when it's a right click, a left click when you take the mouse, or when you're just hovering around it and stuff. Because this is like a live stuff, that's why we're not seeing it. Okay, so I blend it, make sure there's no this between the nose and the forehead, so you have to make sure there's an even blend. Most times from the forehead down to the edge of the nose, there's this even blend that comes because of the highlights the makeup artists usually use. And sometimes because of the kind of light setting we use, most light settings favors the nose down to the head. We use rebrands and all those split lights, it's always from the forehead down to the nose. So I blend these two. This is good. Now her eye bags are not really bad, so I'll just free them. Okay, so just touch this a little bit. It's okay. Okay, I take it out a bit. So I'll see. Sometimes going out and coming in helps you see what you're doing. It might look perfect when you're zoomed in. When you go out, you now see that her face is now looking like she's rubbing Mojo powder. So now for the hand aspect, every other aspect aside her face, I try and keep it very mild because there's no makeup. So I just make sure the skin just look even. Unless in cases where my light doesn't spill properly on, doesn't blend properly on a particular part of the body, I can now adjust my exposure, adjust the light sets and everything. But this picture is perfect. Great Sabi work. He's here. Where is he? Where in brown cap?
Editing.
Look at him here. He took the shot. Okay, so continue the blending. Now this particular model will not get plenty work. She no stressors at all. So I just do minor. Now this chest area that we touched the hair, remember, you have to make sure it looks natural. Because you don't look as if you get lapa or ringworm, you get. So you have to make sure the model looks beautiful and nice. You get. It's the truth now. So I think this is reasonable enough. Occasionally I zoom out to see what I'm doing. Make sure say I never start a press spoil or my village people don't take control of the mouse, you know. Go give people they're strong like that sometimes. You can ask Mr. Godwin. He can say one or two about it. Now this is almost okay. I'm just making slight changes just to make it since now this is okay. I'll still blend my background to make it look okay. This also works for background. When you have small patterns on the background, you know, the people that use paper background, sometimes I have this slight wrinkles around the background. You just touch it a little bit. These down parts too, where tripod shoe, the shoe you wore that day, I believe I should not cause the pattern, which the background couldn't take the shoe. But for purpose of not going back to old talk, I'll just let that one slide and work on the background now. Then this part of the white background, sometimes you might not even see some details when you're editing picture because the color of your system is probably not as detailed as your phone. No phone is close up. Once you just send picture to client, first thing they do is they are zooming in. So you might not even see small patterns on this white stuff. So most times, to be on the safer side, I like blending things like this just in case there's like dirt on it. It make it mild. Her dress, if you notice the edge of the dress, just to reduce wrinkles and stuff like that. Then what else? I think for now this is okay. In some cases, I zoom into the hair and still touch the hair a little bit. But sometimes if you overdo it, now make the hair look like they iron the hair. You know, makes sense. So keep it as natural as possible. So far this is the skin work before, after. Let me zoom in properly. So okay. Where's my mouse? Okay, so this is the before, the after, the before and the after. Now I'm rushing this, so it permits me some things are not as perfect as you would want it to be. This is obviously not the work I will send to clients because I'm rushing. This is sometimes you calm down, do your work while you're grooving with better music, and you slept for like 6 hours before you edit, or you have to sleep for 6 hours after the edit. Okay. Next now remember we separated the tones from the textures. So in post-production, this texture layer is not just useless. So let's say I'm done with the skin work. Now there's some part of the skin that I want to see. Sometimes we will leave some details, some spots on our face. We just take out a few, and then in frequent separation, we take out some of the details that we don't want to be in the picture. What do I mean? Now I come back to, I select my clone stamp tool, make sure the hardness is, remember the hardness was hard when we were doing the hair, so I make it soft again. Now if you look at this part of our, look at this part of our face, this wrinkle here, I don't want it there. I change my mind. So I simply select a part of the image that has similar exposure and skin tones. Then I just gently touch it a bit. Gently. Sometimes you need to zoom in to see it better. It's your choice. It's just at your discretion. You just need to know which to do, which not to do. Now, if you notice, I try and make sure I do it as I select pixels that are as close to that part as possible. I didn't mean selecting from here and I come to edit it. You see the difference it's having. It has like this effect that is not really nice. Most times, part of the skin that is close to the wrinkle or close to the spot you want to replace has similar skin tones and exposure with the part you're trying to replace. That will make sure it's as close as possible. What else again? Okay, so I think this does pretty much it. Just finishing touch. Make sure it's perfect. Edge of our nose. Okay, let's see. Now, I'm okay with this eye bag, so I won't change it. But if you want to change the eye bag, you have to. Most times you blend under the skin tones. You make sure you blend it a little bit to have as similar skin tone as possible with the other aspect of her face. Then, under your patch tool, you do normal replacing using clone stamp tool. That should work. But me, I don't want to do it though, because I'm actually okay with the eye bag. So I'll just undo it. Sometimes I just like it looking natural, like I said. So, is it? Okay. Now this is all with the skin work. For color grading now, it's pretty simple. I'll just give us basic color grading that most times help your image pop. Not necessarily changing it, still look as natural as possible. Now what you simply do is one of the first color grade I learned when I started trying to define how I would do my work. Now there are two features that I use, effects I use. First of all, I use selective tool. Now that selective tool, you have privilege of modifying different colors of the image. And we all know our skin mainly is affected mainly by 4 colors rather. The red, yellow, black, and grey. Now, why I add grey most times is because grey is like a neutral color in between your highlights and your shadows most times. So it has effects too. But personally, I don't touch the grey nowadays. Now what I do is under the red, you can make her skin pop. Now most times if you're doing things like this, just if you're looking out for tutorials, or if you're trying to do what someone did rather, you see it doesn't make sense for you to say, okay, because Nugi used 3, let me use 3. 3 is perfect. Or no, I saw Gordon use 16, so 16 it makes sense. Your image might not need 16. There's some image that will need 5, some image will need 16, some image will need -5. So it's just for you to understand the reason why these things are done. It's easy for you to modify or make changes to how your own picture appears. So I'll just take it to the extreme at each point, so for us to see the effect it has. Now look at the red it has. If I increase the cyan for red, if I reduce it, how it looks. So me personally now, I like red in my pictures. So I would keep it as low as possible. -6 is okay for me. Then for the magenta, this is at its highest, these are lowest. Now if you notice, I'm tilting towards the part that gives me more red. So this, I can leave this at about, I think this fine. So far this is the before and after. The change might not be significant enough, but you still see it. Now for yellow, for the red, I just increase it just a little bit. Maybe 2 or 3 is fine for me, for this picture now. Because I want it to still have that nice warm feel that might not look significant in this particular, when you're doing most of this, you might never see the impact immediately. When you finish and you now turn off your layer and on it, after you make some steps, you see the difference. Now for the blacks, for this particular thing, why most times why I increase the blacks, because it makes it more contrasty. Look at the black for the red. If you increase, look how it looks. If you reduce it, it looks flatter. So me personally, I like increasing the red reasonably. I can let this stay around. This 5 is fine for the red. And because of time, I'll just move faster. For the yellow, I don't need to touch anything. If you touch anything, start changing her skin tone. So I just make sure, I just increase the main yellow itself small. 5, 3, okay. I can leave it at 4. So far, these are before, after. before, after. I don't know if you can see the difference. Now, lastly, last part I like touching is the blacks, because I like adding little contrast to my image. This is me taking out the black entirely. This is me adding the black entirely. So you can see the effect of the black. So I just make sure I increase reasonably to make sure her skin pop, the hair looks perfect, the hair looks dark enough. This nice contrast is perfect. It's okay for me. 5 is okay. So this is now before, after, before, after. This is looking natural and still beautiful. Now next I go to my contrast, brightness and contrast. Now this part is not really about the color anymore. It's about how I deal with my shadows, midtones, and highlights. So personally, I just make sure I use legacy. I just make sure I increase my brightness reasonably. Sometimes very little, sometimes I don't even increase that, or then the contrast to increase reasonably, just add something to it, just very little. To just make it spicy, a bit spicy. Now these 2 steps looks perfect already. I now merge these layers together, the both effects. Now I'll tell you why. Why I merge them. You can merge all your layers. Everything you've done so far, you can merge it into one layer using Control Alt Shift E, or Control Option Command E on Mac. This is what I use Mac. When you merge all the layers together, everything you've done now, everything I've done now is on this layer, down to this step. Now why I do that so occasionally is because I want to have that effect. Probably when it's like, if I want to move to the next step, I have a summary of what I've done so far. If I now start doing the next thing on it, I just feel it gives my own editing this nice feel to it. Now, after I do this, I now go to my camera raw settings by either pressing Control Shift A or Command Shift A, or you come to your filter, and then under filter you see it's the camera raw filter. Most times if you're shooting raw file, once you take it to Photoshop, by default it opens it in this interface. But because I didn't save this as a raw file, that's why I did not open it instead from the beginning. Now under this folder, you're wondering, this is perfect, what do you need to do again? Still the same thing, I just tweak it up. Sometimes if I do these settings under the settings I did here, the image might look like this image. I feel this image is too contrasting. Personally, I want the highlight to pop a bit. I want to still play around with it a little bit. So I use CapCut to do finishing touch on it. Now this image, the exposure is okay to me, so I don't need to touch the exposure. I increase my contrast still a little bit. Drop the highlights. Why I'm dropping highlights? Capture one, camera raw. Sorry, I had no idea. Sorry. Camera raw. Sorry, camera raw. So now, why? In some cases where you have like her forehead, her chin, her jaw, edge of her arm, her shoulder area still looking very bright, the highlight is still much. You can easily just come to this highlight and reduce it. It drops the highlight reasonably. Now you do it, obviously you do it according to how you feel it's necessary. It's at your discretion. Most times it's in constant practice that you get better ways to express yourself through your images. Now personally, this image doesn't have much work, so I just want to just touch things a little bit, just to give me this nice additional touch. Now this is the before, the after, the before, the after. Now this might look like there's no difference, but see all these small things, now they combine, they make the soup sweet. So I still feel the image is a bit contrasty, so I'll just increase the exposure a little bit. Too much. Okay, now this is fine. So this is it for me. Now this should be perfect. Now most times I think I mentioned it earlier, I like my pictures looking cold and a bit red, because of when you increase your blue and you add red, it gives you this sweet magenta feel. I like it personally. I like it. Most of my pictures carry it. Though nowadays sometimes I try to now play around with things to just give me this nice cyan kind of feel or something. No, not cyan, sorry. Why would I call it like green like that? So now for this, I increase my what's it called? My temperature a little bit, just to have this, like I said, the calm blue feel. This is reasonable. In some cases, I tilt it. In some cases, but this particular one now, I don't think I need to. Okay. For the purpose of this class, I can just raise the 2. 2 is still fine. This is the before, the after. Before, the after. I don't touch it. I leave my vibrance and 0. I don't need to add any color or reduce any color. I leave it like that. Then I come to In some cases where I feel the image is too flat or it's too, the contrast is not blending well, I can come and dehaze a bit. Now this dehaze gives your image this, how will I put it? Makes it look more contrast, but smartly. I don't need this for this picture, just for purpose of explanation that I'm actually doing this. So I take it back to the default. I don't need it. The next thing I do is my color mixer. Unlike this color mixer, it gives me privilege to play around with basic colors my picture carries. For instance, the background is kind of like is mixture of green and aqua. So I can easily now this color mixer is broken into three parts: the hue, the saturation, and the luminance. The hue, now most colors has this was easy for me to understand because in coding, now you see color as red, green. We will use the signatures, the hexa value of the hashtag for the images. So you don't see red. So most colors have neighboring colors. For instance, red has orange and pink to the sides. Orange has yellow and green to the sides. Most times that's how it works. Yellow has green and orange to the side. It's like they're all connected. It forms a circle of colors, right? Blue has purple and magenta, or is purple and pink to the side. It's even purple and pink. So like that's how it actually flows. So in cases where you don't want to do a particular thing, I've changed the color of outfit of the client without even having to select the clothes she's wearing, just because the color is purple. I just came to this place and I adjusted the purple, and purple became blue, or blue became purple. I think one of it was the color. I should just change that because I wanted to give her a feel of something extra, and she really loved it. So I'm just giving you an instance how you can actually play around with colors. But this class, there's nothing to change here, except I just want to, for the purpose of us learning, this background now can actually just be touched a bit. So you see now it's becoming more warm. Here it's getting towards the blue part. I'll just leave it here. Then this is hydrated. Now the blue, remember I increased blue my temperature. So there's a little spill of blue on the image. If I tilt my blue towards this part, you see it's changing everything already. But me, I like my blue looking blue. I like it looking as natural as possible, so I don't do it. For color grading purposes, I can do it sometimes. But basic editing, when I do my work, I make sure it's like this. Now I don't touch my blue anymore. Now most times, because of how much I like red, when I get to this point, my picture might be too red. So in as much as I like red, I don't want it to be too much. I want it to just have just the right amount. So in cases, most times I after I finish editing, because I know by default say I do plenty red, I come and I reduce my red a little bit and use my orange. So it won't be too much. So I have something like this now. Now when I finish doing this, now sometimes because of editing, color exposure, the whole frequency separation, the image might look, your model might look darker than she is. How I fix that in post-production is, after I come down to this part, I go to luminance and increase my orange and red, the brightness of the color. So say she's fairer, it's easy for me to just increase the orange and the red reasonably, and she'll look fairer. If she's darker, it's easy for me to just reduce the red and orange a bit, and she'll look darker. Do you get me? So, but our model looks perfect, so I'll just let it still slide. Not really have to change anything. If I need to, I'll just change it. In some cases where sometimes the contrast might be too much. Now the contrasty part of skin tone most times has more red than the bright part. The bright part usually has more orange and sometimes yellow if the person is very fair. But the red actually maintains the contrasty aspect of the image. So I just leave it like that. I don't have any more to do. Now the last thing I do here is details. This is where I add little sharpness to my image. So I come to the actual sharpening and I increase it a bit. For fact, I'll tell you most times I don't check the amount I add. It's going to have my ancestors rub my head. So it's not something that it can be too much. Because if you increase the sharpness a bit, it will make your image to be noisy. If that's what you want to achieve, it's fine. But most times it's preferable you keep it under 20. Most times. Then I increase my noise reduction because as I'm increasing sharpness, obviously, it can get noisy. So I just, sir? So I just increase this a little bit. Then for my color noise reduction, I make it, it's usually the highest because the skin tone, it focuses on blending the details of the skin tone. So that way her skin doesn't look, the dark part doesn't look a bit noisy or uneven. That's why I do this. The effect might not be significant. Most times if you want to know what the difference your image carry, you edit, you save, you export and check it out on your phone. That's a very good way I check out my image. Sometimes not even just my phone. I have friends that I send my work to. Alpha, what do you think about this work? Then they'll help you do the whole normal zoom in, check it out. You can check it out on your friend's phone too. Because nowadays our gadgets, either you buy second hand or your screen don't fall, you fix your screen, you don't change, and the color profile of this of your gadget might actually differ. So most times just make sure you're on the safe side. You don't send clients work that will not make her look like she sold red oil before coming for photo shoot. You just have to make sure it's balanced. Now this is it. I am good to go like this. So this is the before and the after for camera roll. Now I group these folders. Ctrl G. Then I can name this color grade. The spelling is wrong, but you get the gist. So now this is the color grade. This is the before for the color grade. This is the after. So I'll just run through what we did. This is the original image. This is after we took out the hair, frequency separation, then our color grade. Because of time, I'll just do. Now, the next thing I like to do is the teeth and eye whitening. This one I'm not even going to even bother, so I'm going to teach you guys. There are two ways to do it. Then there are actions used to do it, but you can also do it for purpose of simplicity's sake. I will show us how to do it in camera raw. Now, first of all, I create a new layer for what I want to do, eye and teeth whitening. I can just name it eye and teeth whitening, but all the time I'm actually just going to. Now go to camera raw. I think I'm not saying CapCut this time around. Go to camera raw. Make sure you zoom into your image, the part of the image, the eye and the nose. Now press K on your keyboard. It automatically take you to the aspect of the image that deals with what me I like. It's actually, how will I put it? You work on the temperature, the exposure of the image with respect to just the parts you are selecting. Now I will drop this a little bit. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me zoom in more. Okay, so we're seeing it clearly, right? So now, this part of the image, let me pick a particular part. Now see, what I do here is, to make it whiter, if you want to get more white, you add more blue. If you want to get white easily, you add more blue. Then you make it, the cooler your image is, the closer to white it is. So I take my temperature down a little bit. Then for the tint, I tint it towards this aspect a bit, just a little bit. Now if you notice, the part of the teeth is getting white already. Now that's not enough. Now because I know that normally, after you do the whole color grading, the teeth, sometimes your client's teeth might not be dirty, but when you finish your color grade, it affects the teeth. So that's why most times you come back to clean up the teeth and the eyes. Not that the client has bad teeth. It gets, sometimes it's just our work that actually influences it. So now I reduce my saturation because obviously I'm taking out the colors, trying to make sure the teeth is white. Now this is okay, but in some cases you can still increase the white to make it look white. So if you don't do it reasonably, the teeth will now start becoming invisible, like it's blown out. So you have to make sure you do it with sense. Now at this point, I think it's okay for me to just, now you just color over. You just color over it. Now remember, I'm rushing, please, because of our time. So you know, go blame me if it's not perfect enough. Now sometimes again, even as it looks perfect when you were selecting the settings, when you finish selecting, I'll be like, the teeth is not giving the natural feel you want to get. You're not looking probably like you use dye on top of the teeth or hypo. So in cases like that, now you can now easily come to where you want to adjust some of these things and just adjust it reasonably. Are we together, please? So like I said, most times, most of these things, you try the both ways to see the effect it's having. That's the best way to learn. When you try the extreme, you see the effect it's having, you can now adjust it to just the setting you want. Are we together? Now I think this is reasonable enough. So this now is before, after, before and after. I'm good to go for the teeth. Now officially this image is good to go, but to give this nice depth of focus, I like adding vignette to my image. So I have my predefined vignette, but it's nothing special. It's still the normal vignette. It's still normal vignette. My one is just in the right proportion. So you just have these nice dark edges around it. But it's something that if you want to do, on that same, you can create a different layer and go to camera raw again. Camera raw has the feature, so you don't stress yourself too much. Go to camera raw and under that effect, you see it here. This is it. So you can increase it reasonably. Then under it, you see the whole settings of the midtones, how exactly you want. So you try and make sure just the edges of the picture that is actually a bit dim. The idea is to, it's a psychological effect it has. It drives their focus to the main subject of the image. So sometimes I do this and I make sure the vignette just affects just the down part, the base part of the image. Sometimes it's just the top, sometimes it's just one part. It's at your own discretion. You just get to play around with it the way you want. Now, obviously, you add further, you just play and stand. You're good to go. So this is the before, the after, the before, the after. If you feel it's too much, if most times if you're doing any edits, any part of the edit, one of the reasons we create new layers is if, for instance, I make a mistake. Let's say I send this work to a client. The client is saying, I don't like the way my teeth is white. It's looking fake. Now, I don't need to start everything from the beginning. I'll simply just come to this aspect and take out this layer. When I finish working on it, I easily continue from where I stopped. In some cases, you can even still, like when it comes to aspects like the color grade, you can still repeat your color grade without having to start afresh because you create different layers for your work. So now, if it's too much, if at any point what you're doing in a particular layer feels too much, instead of finding a way to go back to change it, you can easily just come to opacity and drop it reasonably till you feel the amount is enough. Are we together, please?
Yes, sir.
This is it. So if you ask me now, this image is ready based on, for the purpose of the class, this image is ready for export. This is what we start with. Is where we are right now. Now, the last aspect is now exporting. It's very important. Earlier on, when I started exporting pictures, sometimes you see, I remember when I started learning figure separation, I exported, when I finished editing on the system, it was looking rich, her skin was popping, I was proud. A friend of mine was with me, it was her picture I was editing. She said this picture make her skin pop, she's glowing. I sent it to phone. I was like, this is not the popping skin we saw, but you get. So I now learned over time, that there's actually a way to export it to maintain your color profile, the detail. So now, if you're exporting normal, if you're just saving it, you're telling the computer save it as a file. So the computer help you do the reasoning, help you approximate the pixels of the picture and export it. So you're ready. For instance, let me talk like a cybersecurity person I am. If your picture carries, let's say, 10,000 pixels of red, let me say 10,570 pixels of red, Photoshop can automatically make it 10,000 for you and just take it. And that 500 is the detail you need to actually make that skin pop. It will now approximate everything. When you are posting to it, approximates it for you. But if you use particular the exporting settings I'm going to show you now, it helps makes your saving pattern more intentional. So every pixel is accounted for. So even if you're compressing or expanding it, it still does the ratio of the pixels that was originally in the image. Say for instance, you're exporting the file the width of 2,000 pixels to 5,000 to 2,500, and after that 2,500, 10 by 15 percentage of the pixel is red. If you expand the image to 4,000 to 9,000, for instance, it will still use the same proportion of the 2,000 to 2,500 for the 4,000 to 9,000. What I mean is, if, for instance, 10% of it's you get my gist. I don't find English. I'm not gonna record. Okay, so I don't go maths already. You get. So now for the exporting, there's shortcuts for it, but we'll go through the whole long process so we'll see it. Now you come down to your your file, sorry. On that file, you see export. Now there are two methods to do this, and I'll explain why I use either of the two. But before that, I forgot something. Now remember we size it 4x5. Social media has particular pixel they export, they upload files in. Most times, I think now it is 2,480 for the width of Instagram. to 2048 for the width for Instagram. Then by the ratio, it is calculated for the length. But me now, I don't make it 2480 because I don't want to tell the algorithm that I'm perfect. Most times, perfect work looks 42. So I make sure mine is 2000. So I give it little room to adjust the image. Now, why I didn't make it higher is because to compress the image. If your image is heavy, you say, I want me the quality sharp. You now export image of 16 gig like Henry. Where is he? Like Henry, 16 megabytes. You make sure your image is sharp. You export it and send to Photoshop and send to Premiere Instagram. You'll still be looking for the model's nose. I'm exaggerating, but you get it still shrinks it drastically. So most times the smartest thing to do is not by giving it heavy file that has more details, because to help you drop it down. The smartest thing to do is by giving it file that you get to understand what it will do to your image and do it to the image. So when you bring it in, it's like, this one is working already. Okay, just put icing on the cake and take it there. Instead of helping you to still adjust ingredients. That's the gist of what I do. Now, how you simply do that is you come to image and go to image size, or you press Ctrl-Alt-I on your keyboard. It will open this part for you. Now, most times, if you open it, it won't be in pixels. It might be in centimeter or inches. You have to select the pixels. Then you come down to your width, and for me now, I select 2000. Because my ratio is 2000, it's 4:5. Automatically, the width becomes 2500, which is perfect for me. When I finish like now, normally I should export this, but then I come down to this resampling. Then I use bicubic sharper because I wanted to maintain that crispy feel on the image. But the bicubic sharper that I selected has reduction in it. Now this reduction, it's a way of making the food, like I said, you know how when we were growing up, we do something wrong from Momsi come back. But to reduce the beating, we report ourselves. So we're like, Mommy, I break the pot. You break the pot, you break the pot. This boy, I don't time for your matter, she no beat you again.
It depends.
Actually, but even if they beat you, the beating will be like when she find out herself. So you get, so most times it's still better if you get 1 or 2 bars goes, but compared to say, who bought this pot? Now me, I've told you to stop. You get that kind of, so I think reporting yourself to the algorithm makes it easier for you to get your work done. So now I make sure it's reduction. In some Photoshop, it will give you percentage of how the percentage of reduction you want to use. I used to leave one at 10. I don't want it to be too much, just 10. Personal preference, just 10. If you finish this, you save it. The image is resized. If the image is more than the size before, it will, if it's smaller, even when I edit images that, it's like a particular client, I lost their file. It was the selection I sent to them online for S1 JPEG format, like 300 kilobytes. I had to edit for her. When I finished, I came here, I exported it. When I raised it to 2000, it expanded the image for me. Even when I want to do enlargement and stuff, this is actually a very good way to expand your image without having to literally increase the size anyhow. It deals with the amount of pixels, like you're more intentional about what is increasing in the image. So now we now go back to exporting. Sorry, excuse me. Now, like I said, the 2 patterns of exporting, you can export it as a web or as how will I put it down, as high quality file. Let me use that term because there's no official term for it. Now we start with this. This export as this particular export as file like this. Most times then I was using it then for if you want to print large formats. Personally, I recommend this. Personally. No, not as web. It's actually there are 2 of them. It's if you look at export as, there's a W behind it. I think that's the easiest way to just differentiate it. Then when I was using Windows, it will show you export as file. Then yes, I'll show you export as web. So now it's export as file. Now this is what I'm talking about. Most times, if I want to do intentional, like this portrait behind, that's what I did. I exported it as the big project behind. I exported it as that file and it maintained my work for me. If you use web too, it will still work fine. Because most times I export as web for clients and the clients still do frame. It will still work. This thing is just minor details you give to your work to just make it stand out. And you know, sometimes you cannot define the printer you're using. So now I come to this part. Now, one of the first things you have to do is you change it, the format to JPEG. Make sure the quality is at its highest. At that point, you're good to go for the quality. Now you come down to resample. And me personally, I use bicubic sharper most times. But for this particular listing, I don't want, it's not about how sharp the image looks. I want it to preserve the quality. So for this particular exporting pattern, I use preserve details. Are we together? Now every other thing is there. You click copyright and contact information for details like your camera settings, your kind of software you use to edit it. In case for writing, if you want to start dragging who get work, who no get work, who I shoot down with, just for purposes like that. Now one of the things you should make sure is always selected is this embed color profile. This is the cocoa. This is what tells the whatever platform you're putting it in is. I give you 10 red, make I see 10 red when they show people. No carry 6 red come. I'm just paraphrasing, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. It makes it more intentional about the pixels you're exporting. Now this is it. Then this is basically the setting I use for this particular pattern. When you click export, it asks you where you want to save the file to. You just select it. Maybe I have a particular folder I save all my work to. When I finish editing it, I click save, and it's done for that particular exporting pattern. The second is now the save as well. Now this now is for our regular marketplace, social media. It's very good. It maintains the quality that favors the engine, a social media engine. That's the programs. Now under the settings, make sure it's also in JPEG. This looks kind of predefined because I've used them before. Once you just do it once, most times, normally, once you just do the settings once, automatically, anytime you're exporting again, it maintains it. I think from my own research, most times, except you leave your file. So make sure it's at JPEG. Then the quality, make sure it's on maximum. If you put the maximum, automatically brings the quality to 100. Make sure you embed, you don't need progressive. You make sure this embed color profile is checked. Remember, like I said, it's very paramount. Now this is still optional. I see the same thing with what we saw there. It's just now just to reach.
How much information do I want to keep?
You get. So at the end of the day, now for this particular, because it's for social media, I want it to be sharp. I want it sharp where. So I make sure I use bicubic chopper. Some people use bicubic smoother, bicubic whatever they want to do. But me, I want bicubic chopper. So I make sure it's chopper. At this point, you click save or you click done, and then it gets you done. It gets you to the folder where you're going to save your work. You click save. Because of I saved the previous file, I'm just going to add maybe A to this. Then I save it, and you save your work. Then we should be good to go. This is the finished work. Sorry. Voila. So far, so I believe no question, man.
We're all lights now.
No, ask me question, the answer. I'm just joking. Please, I'm listening to you. Yes, sir.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Where you were exporting as well,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it happens to you or maybe it's just my system. There are times when you save and it doesn't save. I don't know if you know that. Yes.
Have you ended the? Maybe it's in another folder.
No.